I think we're live.
So you think that you can tell us how to live our lives, never questioning the source from which your moral code derives. You think that suffering is part of some great plan that's been devised. I wonder, what will it take for you to start opening your eyes? I wonder.
Hey everybody, welcome. We are live with the Atheist Experience. It is Sunday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Central. I'm your host this week, Matt Dillahunty, and joining me, my good friend, Mandisa Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing well. It is a pleasure to be here again with you, Matt. I think the last time I was on AXP was 2 years ago in January, and so I am so happy to be back, and I'm happy to be here with you today. I mean, it's always good to see you.
Hey, you know what we should do? Since it was 2 years ago in January that you were on, we should just let Greg know. Go ahead and book Mandisa for next January. That way it's like a January. We start the new year off right with Mandisa like every year.
I'm good with that.
I don't have to wait
Let's
2
do
years.
it.
All right, let me get the announcements out of the way. I'm going to skip the donation announcement, so even if you're watching us live over here in chat on YouTube, don't go up to the top just yet. We're going to get to that in a minute. But if you want to support the Atheist Community of Austin in other ways, you have access to our merchandise information, which will be flashed up on the screen so that you can get ACA merch at bit.ly/AEN merch. You can also become a member here at YouTube, which will get you happy little emotes and other stuff next to your name. You can also support at patreon.com/the Atheist Experience. We have two Facebook pages that we've been promoting to everybody. The Atheist Experience fan group, which is AXPFG, and then the Atheist Experience private fan group, which I can't even tell you about. I'm amazed that they let me announce that it even exists. I'm stunned and shocked. I should be shunned, not stunned. But I have one kind of special announcement today, and it saddens me. There's a gentleman that I've known for a while who has reached the ripe old age of 25 today. I'm stunned. He's this year he's officially less than half my age. And you know, I didn't get any sort of celebration for my 25th birthday because I was, you know, in a war. But oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be moping about my own misery here.
Correct.
Dan Earls, the host of ATA's show Truth Wanted, turns 25 today. Now, Dan, one of his very first guests on his show was Ocean, who's a friend of mine. But I was absolutely livid because you're having a non-skeptical pagan on, not as a caller, but as an actual co-host. What the fuck is wrong with you? I was expecting Anthony Magnabosco on Truth Wanted and all that stuff. Kudos to Dan, though, because Ocean and I are friends. And Dan, despite being too tall, too much into the violin, and having a cat that draws too much blood, is still a wonderful friend of mine. Happy 25th birthday today, Dan. We all love you and appreciate what you do here. And if you have not been watching Truth Wanted, it airs on Friday nights, and you should go look it up. It's another ACA production that isn't just about religion. You can call and talk about anything, including your alien abduction if you'd like to. In addition to Dan and happy birthday, this show wouldn't be possible, and I am pretty much completely dependent on a handful of people who work behind the scenes tirelessly with not nearly enough gratitude. We do try to make sure we say thank you and we feed them. That is our wonderful crew. And those folks there, look at them. They are all Vern. The secret is now out. Vern is the whole crew. Vern has multiple personalities, shows up, does everything in various ways. We just would not be able to survive. Thanks everybody for the crew. Thanks everybody involved with the ACA. We love you guys. By the way, if you're in chat, I'm not going to be in there. And you should be nice to our mods because they have the approval and the authority to just smack you around like you're a roach on the floor and they're a cat. But today is important, not just because Mandy's here with me on the show, but because what we're doing is today's episode is the final event of a week-long fundraiser that we've been doing. And we are only just over halfway to the goal. If you're watching us live, if you look directly up there, you'll see that right now at the start of the show, well, it's gone up a little bit, but it's $5,250 out of $10,000 raised. Now, let me be clear. The Atheist Community of Austin is matching donations up to $10,000, which means every single one of you can start donating right now. And if we get up to that $10,000 of that set in this show, you will probably have set a new record for fundraising here, even though we've raised 15 grand in a weekend before. But the ACA is going to match it. The Black Non-Believers, it's y'all's 10th anniversary. Tell us what's going on, man. You see, we've got a convention coming up. What are you doing?
Yes, thank you, Matt. Once again, for those of you who can definitely see me here, you see behind me is a 10th anniversary sign. And Black Non-Believers has been going strong since 2011. And we were founded and are still headquartered in the Atlanta, Georgia area. We provide community for, we represent a huge portion of the Black atheist demographic. We host various events. We do lots of outreach. We collaborate and coordinate with various other organizations, especially representing the atheist point of view, especially within the Black community. And again, we've been doing so. I've been proud and happy to be on the Atheist Experience and other ACA shows over the past few years, representing us, and also just letting other Black folks and allies know that there is a place that they have support and that they can be represented officially through our organization. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, just like ACA, and we are very active. We are very event-based. We're very engaging, and we try to find ways to have the conversations about our perspective. We support members in expressing that. Also, coming out. You don't have to be out as an atheist, but we do encourage that because the numbers are important, especially as it pertains to research regarding religion within the Black community. And so, again, we could probably spend this entire episode talking about BN and what we do and why it's important. We launched a billboard, our first billboard campaign last year, the True Liberation Billboard campaign, which followed a Black family discussion on Christianity, white supremacy, and true liberation. We also co-sponsored the first ever Zora Neale Hurston Scholarship along with the Secular Student Alliance. So this is just those are just two of the very few things that we do as an organization. And I look forward to, if you haven't heard of us before, if this is your introduction to us, I look forward to you learning more and also engaging us more.
Not only that, and by the way, you can donate here. There's a donate link on my Facebook page as well. We're doing a little bit over there, but this is where the money's being matched right here. You guys are doing a convention that people can attend remotely for $5 next weekend. Is that right?
Correct. We are doing our 10th anniversary celebration. It's more than a conference. It will take place from January 15th through the 17th. The sessions will be streamed on the 16th and the 17th. And as you can see here, we have some fabulous speakers. We have Jeremiah Kamara. If you aren't familiar with him, I highly recommend familiarizing yourself. Also, Sakibu Hutchinson, who co-produced the Women of Color Beyond Belief Conference with Black Non-Believers. You also have Anthony Magnabosco, who is another favorite on the ACA network. Anthony Magnabosco.
Anthony is a good friend of mine who I miss and I don't get to see often enough. So that's a good grab. I see you've also got Darrell and Gail Jordan from Recovering from Religion as well. So
absolutely, and of course my sister, none other, Bridget Crutchfield.
Yay!
So yes,
it's like all my homies are there, and I'm stuck here, locked in my house. So You know what I'm going to do, people? So if you only had $10 that you could afford to give to Black non-believers, definitely do 5 of it here where it's going to be matched, and then do the other 5 so that you get yourself a conference as well. I'm going to be signing up so that I can watch remotely, despite the fact that I've already donated at Facebook and here. Hey, you know what? If you have only donated in one place, go donate in several places. It all works out. We need lots of money to do lots of good stuff. But I
Absolutely.
greatly appreciate everybody who's donating. By the way, I'm never one to guilt or shame anybody into donating. You donate if you are able to, and if you are supportive of the mission. And anybody who tries to ask you for more is trying to sell you something that you probably don't want to buy. But we love Mantis. We love the organization. It's been important, and it's been eye-opening, because this movement could have stayed without a Black non-believer's presence, and Mantis would still be a friend of mine, and we would still be working towards stuff. It's just, we would be missing the opportunity to meet the specialized needs of a portion of our community. People who have different lived experiences, people who have different daily interactions with people. I don't know what it's like, but I do know that Atheist Community of Austin, American Atheists, Black non-believers, recovering from religion, all of these organizations can work together to not only treat the whole of a person, but the whole of the people who are part of our community. And we're excited about that.
Absolutely. And I would say we have, Matt. I volunteer with Recovering from Religion. We serve on the board for American Atheists. And so our work is, while we have a specific focus with Black non-believers, it certainly isn't exclusive. And right. I want people to understand that state church separation issues are absolutely important. Racial justice issues, reproductive justice, all of that is important to our community. It definitely is more than about us just letting go of God and the God concept, and also having these contentious conversations, because that is absolutely important. But when we let religion go, when we leave that behind, and we realize that there's a whole world out there, there are more perspectives, there's more to this world than what many of us have been conditioned to think. And it's time for us to start being more educated on what other people go through, and also what we can do to support each other. And like you said, there's more than one way to do that. The one thing I have to say about the religious community that they kind of got down pat is how they're able to get people to support. Now, much of it is through guilt and shame. However, there's something to be said about supporting a community that has supported you. And that is absolutely important. And I think as people, sometimes we get to this place where we have come to our comfort and our solace with our perspective. And sometimes we don't remember the people who are coming behind us, and the organizations who are still doing that work. And all of what we do is important. And if I say nothing else, hopefully, and I appreciate everyone who supports Black non-believers on a regular, and everyone who has supported today and throughout this entire week. But please know that your continuous support is greatly appreciated and needed, because it really does allow us to do the work that is needed.
It's great stuff. By the way, for the people who are watching regularly the Atheist Experience, so I've had gigabit internet here at the house for a while, so my feed to the station is really good, and of course you're going to see a second or third hand feed out of there. And we appreciate the technical feedback from people on tech issues on the show. Vern is happy to get into that, and I know that Greg and the other people who are working as volunteers want to be able to tweak stuff. Today is my first day with Google Fiber, so it's still gigabit internet, but I have a different provider, and hopefully we don't see the hiccups that we saw before. So if you do, comment on it. Man, Disa, I have to say, I can't believe did we do something else in the last 2 years that was a show together? Because it doesn't feel like it's been 2 years since you were on XP.
The last thing we did, as far as like officially with the we did the other shows
the line
last month. Yeah.
Okay.
We did a line and the hang up. So
it all
was
becomes
very recent.
So by the way, after today's show's over, I'll be doing the line, but this all kind of runs together, and it feels like when you were like, oh, I haven't done AXP in 2 years, I was like, I know we talked sooner than that, because I remember when you were in town and we hung out and we did AXP. A lot of things have happened since then. We're going to catch up later. Do we want to? Yes. Are we ready to get to some calls?
Yes, I am. Let's go.
Sweet. I have Enoch in Pennsylvania. Thanks for waiting. You are on the air with Mandisa and Matt. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty
Doing
good.
okay. How can we help?
So my question was just if the Bible was true and Christianity was true and Jesus raised from the dead, would you become Christians? So would you be practicing Christians in order to follow what Bible teaches?
So I don't know, Mandisa. If it was all proven true, would you be a Jesus follower?
No,
Me neither.
absolutely not. There's so much. There's so many bad things in that Bible that I would refuse to. I refuse to follow it.
If
So
it were all
that's
true,
a hard no.
if it were all true, I'm in agreement with Mandisa. It'd be a hard no. If it were true, but there was information that was wrong, then I would give Jesus and I would give God the opportunity to, Lucy, you got some splaining to do, and God could come in and explain. But the thing is, if there was a God who had anything that they felt they need to explain away in the Bible, they should have done it a long fucking time ago. They are the absentee landlord, to paraphrase Al Pacino and crap.
Devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate. Thank you.
Devil's advocate.
So yeah, does that answer your question?
So it does. My thought is even if God was evil, though, I would still do what he wants just to be saved from hell, because I think I would rather serve an evil God and live in paradise than go to hell. I know it's a really selfish reason, but that's my reason.
And shitty to everybody else that you know. So,
Right.
So basically what you're saying is when a violent despot comes in and threatens you, you will be standing up with them while we will be standing up with the revolutionaries.
Well, it's eternal, so it's a huge difference.
Enoch, do you not see how abusive that is as well? The fact that you would still follow an evil God and perhaps even do what this evil God tells you to do. So if this God tells you that you should, kill a baby for no apparent reason at all, you would still do it just to fear, just to not go to hell. That you still have no evidence exists.
Well, I don't think that the claims of Christianity don't require anything like that.
They don't. So are you not familiar with when Abraham was ordered to kill Isaac? You're not familiar with the story of Abraham and Isaac?
But God's never asked me to do anything like that.
Well, good job.
But he's right.
I've never asked you to kill anybody either, have I? Why don't you worship me? I'm way better than a God, because you know what? I will never ask you to kill anybody. And when the vicious despot shows up, we'll be on the same side. I'm more deserving of worship than the God that you're worshiping, and you don't even have any reason to think he exists.
Right. And let's say if the God, if everything in the Bible was proven to be true, then that means that the story of Job, the story of Abraham, where God asked Abraham to sacrifice his child, that means that that's all true. And so that means that you would be willing to reconcile. That means that you would be willing to reconcile that sort of that sort of abuse and murder.
If God is infinite in knowledge, couldn't he have explanations and defenses for his things that we just don't know about?
Enoch, didn't I just say that I'd be willing to let God explain himself? However, why hasn't he already done it? The fact that God hasn't offered up these explanations means that he doesn't want to, or he doesn't exist. So you're now inventing a hypothetical, which, if your hypothetical were true, if God was existed and was of such moral character that he needed to correct the Bible, he should have already done it. So why would you propose that as something God could eventually do? What the fuck's taking him so long? Where's God coming out to say, hey,
thing, but
Where's God when he says, hey, you know all that stuff that it says in Exodus and Leviticus about slavery, or all that stuff that it says about subjugating women, or all that stuff it says about going out and conquering people and keeping the virgins for yourself, all that stuff that's in that book, I denounce all of that. Because if anybody wrote a book in my name that had that shit in it, I would be publicly denouncing that repeatedly. It would be the first thing on my website. It would be the header for my Twitter and my Facebook and my YouTube. I didn't endorse that fucking content that is out there in my name. That's what I would do. That's what a responsible agent does. Why hasn't God done it?
Sounds like Shaggy. It wasn't me.
It's possible he has reasons we just don't know about.
Well, cool. Are you going to make up excuses for everybody who you don't know why they did something terrible, or just God?
Well, God is a lot more infinite knowledge.
You don't know. No, you're just making shit up at this point.
people-
You don't even know that a God exists. I asked a simple question. Are you gonna make excuses for everybody who might have motives that you don't know, or just God? And you want to make a claim that God is somehow different. You haven't even demonstrated that God is real, let alone deserves to be considered on a different scale. I would argue that if God is in fact moral, there are about 500 things I could list that he should have done and has not. And you're just like, maybe he's got good reasons. Well, okay, maybe he doesn't. And maybe you're just being a goofball who is terrified of saying, hey, I don't have good reason to believe this exists, so I'll just keep making excuses for it. You are morally bankrupt right now, Enoch. Doesn't that bother you? That you would make excuses for atrocities, for fictional things?
Yeah, I mean, some people offer explanations.
What explanation
That
has
doesn't mean
God
that we have
offered?
to accept it either, though.
What explanation has God offered, Enoch?
I haven't heard an explanation from God because I haven't heard from him.
Okay. Doesn't that tell you quite a lot that you're hearing excuses from other people who also haven't heard from him?
Well, I don't know if they'd heard from him or not.
Okay. Have they demonstrated that they have heard from him?
No.
Has God told you that he talked to them? Because if they're claiming that God talked to them,
No.
and you know God, couldn't you just ask God if those other people actually talked to him?
Yeah. God
So
doesn't-
why don't you do that?
I don't know.
Why don't you do that?
Do what? Ask God?
Ask God. Yeah.
He doesn't talk to me.
Gosh.
Wow, what a shitty God. I mean, my goodness. A God who can't talk to his true followers, one who would follow him through all of his evil. I mean, can you understand how that is unacceptable? I'm just asking if you can understand why we could not follow such a God, even based on what you said. It's unacceptable for us.
I mean, I don't want followers.
I can understand your perspective.
I'm not the kind of individual who's looking for followers, but especially wouldn't want followers who are going to offer, like if I did something bad and they're like, maybe Matt's got a reason. Cool, thanks. Maybe Trump's got a reason. Maybe he does.
His
Can we
program is
redo the last
amazing.
election and everything? Can I just give him the benefit of the doubt? I mean, at least he exists. But the confusion here, Enoch,
Well,
is that
poor old Enoch here. He's on the floor
you're-
and he's being
you're calling him to
kicked. He's
suggest,
like a little
hey,
puppy. He's as naive as hell, and they just keep kicking him.
maybe this God's got reasons
Poor
for
guy.
things that
He
he's
should
hiding.
never have rung in.
But what you asked initially was, if everything in the Bible were true, would you guys be believers? And Mandis and I both said no. Very quickly, by the way, because we know what's actually in the book, and we are in agreement that it is inexcusable, and yet you are here making the excuses for it. At the end of this, at the end of all this, when we're all in the old folks' home, and it's me and you and Mandisa, and we're all sitting there, and we've done our jobs, and we've spent our lives, and we've worked on this. Are you really going to be comfortable sitting there knowing that your primary contribution was to call in and make half-assed excuses for atrocities from a being that you don't talk to, that you can't demonstrate is real, and that none of us should believe in? And if they existed, they would in fact be immoral? Is that the way you want to roll out your last days?
Oh, okay.
No,
And
not
that's
really.
why I love you, Esky.
So do better.
That's why I'm questioning.
Yep. I appreciate the question. That's why I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm just pointing out the inevitable consequences of this. And I'm saying do better. It's possible to do better. It's possible to be better. I used to be similar
I'm
to
kind
you.
of hoping that some of the people that I know
I don't
will
know
look
how
at this
I don't know if I would have ever called
because
into a
they've never
show
seen
and
this program
defended
before.
God with maybes and maybes and
Seep
maybes, because I always
into
understood
them.
that wasn't a defense, which is one of the reasons why
Infiltrate them.
I was able to give up my religion, because all I cared about was what was true. That's it. And if God isn't true, then I guess there's no reason to believe. I don't know. Mandy, did you have anything to add in on at the end of this?
The fact that Enoch is even questioning his religion shows that he's even part of the way there. You're showing that you're part of the way there. You're already defying
Yeah, we'll see.
your
Let's hope
God's
so.
will. So if this God existed and he
You
knew
and I
you were
will both
calling
find out.
into this show, which is hosted by atheists,
Oh no.
and you're even
Good game this
admitting
afternoon,
that
by
you
the way.
don't have the
You have
answers,
followers
and this
now.
God had
You
the
have
ability
followers.
to smite you. Just think
Wow.
about that.
Your own religion.
And you're
Come
still
on.
here. You're still on this call.
Come on.
You're actually still engaging us. That should tell you something about the futility of not just your God, but also the belief. So just keep that in mind. The fact that you haven't been struck down
It's
by
not
lightning.
very often that we have a game that
The fact that
finishes
nothing you
on a
won't
winning
step out
note
of your, you
where
probably
everybody's
will not
happy
step out of
and
your house and
we
get hit by
won.
a car or anything like that.
And we did that today.
You know, you just
You
think
do
about that.
indeed deserve it.
And then if it starts to scare you, here's one thing that should make you no longer be scared. I've been hosting this show week in and week out for 15 years, and neither your God nor anybody else's has done so much as giving me a hangnail as far as we can demonstrate. If either of the two of us should be smited from on high, it's me for convincing you and several other people that maybe you don't have a reason to believe in a God, and maybe the God that you're believing in is an immoral thug
Mighty smite
in
on.
fiction. Why haven't I been smited?
Indeed.
Well, that's easy. I mean, if the New Testament is true, it only claims that punishment's after death. So, which of course there's no way to verify.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, sir.
That's
Problem with
bullshit.
I apologize, Enoch, for interrupting, but you're wrong. That is not what the Bible has to say. The Bible says that you will suffer persecution for Christ's sake. And the Bible also advocates for God intervening in people's lives to cause them mischief. I am the Lord thy God. I bring good and evil. This is a God that does stuff according to the Bible. However, we have no demonstration that your God's actually done anything, which is why you, like me, begin with an assumption that God's not going to do anything. Because he's not real. But don't come at me saying what the Bible says if you don't know it. Because the Bible doesn't just say that you'll be punished. Your ultimate punishment will be the wages of sin is death, which, by the way, death is what happens in this life. God could take me out right now.
Well, it's kind of mixed. I mean, yeah, you have those verses, but
Yes,
Jesus
you
said
never
he
mentioned the
causes
fact
his
I had my haircut
rain to
today.
fall on the righteous and the unrighteous, meaning his blessings.
I've lost
So,
a huge amount of hair.
In that sense,
With
he
just one
blesses
hair,
everyone.
and I just pulled it, and it all came out.
Yes, I realize that
Got
Jesus.
less hair. I'm like
I realize
Samson.
that Jesus liked to
weaker.
take credit for a lot of stuff, but that doesn't mean he was actually responsible for anything.
That's true. That's
Did
But-
true.
Jesus also say that he came to fulfill his
demonstrate that,
father's
but-
prophecies, not necessarily do away with any evil? I mean, my goodness.
In any case, do you remember that are you only focused on the New Testament? Because God actually actively killed people in the Old Testament, for picking up sticks on the Sabbath,
Yeah.
So the God in the Bible is kind of a dick, right? Oh, I should say douche, not dick.
I don't know.
Well, why don't you go and think on that? Because I do know. I would say that someone who intentionally created people, gave them a brain, then
Well,
provided no
an
good
ageist
evidence
thing, of
for
course,
himself,
as we both know.
stuck them down in a garden
Between
with a
you
tree
and
that
me.
could provide them eternal life and one that can provide them the knowledge of good and evil. and then punished them and
You
all of their
expect
descendants
me to
forever
let it
for
go.
eating the wrong one after being told not to, when they couldn't have possibly understood that it was wrong because they did not yet possess the knowledge of good and evil.
Mate, the hair loss is
Who
cut.
then
It's cut.
commits a comedy of errors where he's trying to save the world and that doesn't work, and then he just picks on his chosen people, the Jews, and he wants to help them and help
That's
them
the
get
red
out of
wine
slavery
gone.
and doesn't give a shit about anybody else. I have come to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Your Bible is a comedy of failures.
Yeah,
Your
poke-
God in
poke
the
away,
Bible
girl.
is an
Poke away.
inept buffoon for whom things keep going
Love you
wrong,
for
and
it.
he keeps trying to put it back together until finally
Keep
he just
poking.
gives up and
Poke.
vanishes
Poke.
and says, here's the story. Y'all figure it out. I'll save who I will. There's nothing you can do to be saved.
Well, they need to move on now.
Salvation
This
is a
getting
gift
tedious.
from me
The poor guy's on the floor.
by
He's begging.
grace through your faith, which is also a gift from me, by the way. You should really dig in on it, Enoch, and figure out why you're making excuses for something you can't demonstrate, can't prove, have no good reason to believe, don't interact with, and is in fact grossly immoral. You're not only willing to take a side as if you have a real gun to your head, you're taking a side when you can't even demonstrate there is a gun to your head. It's just a fictional threat.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't pick the side of righteous. We're going to move on. I appreciate it. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Whoops.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep, thank you.
Piss off, Enoch.
I know that shocks some people when we say things like, "Oh,
Yeah, it
even
does.
if it was true, we wouldn't believe." And quite often they'll use.
Yeah, I mean,
No, continue.
no, go ahead.
Quite often they'll
No,
use
I
that
was
as an
about to say, I
excuse
mean,
to
people
say
are-
that's a bias on our part, that we're demonstrating we don't want to, and that's not the point. It's like saying, "This has no evidence and is immoral. Of course, I don't want to worship it, and if it were real, I wouldn't."
Right. Right. And it also implies that we are absolutely supposed to go by these, subscribe to these beliefs simply because so many other people have been held hostage to them. It's like,
Well-
so how dare we do that?
How dare.
It's like, wait a minute.
How very dare.
Yep. Well, we've got
I
somebody
say,
here,
my
Neil,
friend, how
in
very dare.
Idaho, who would disagree with us, and wants to talk about why he believes that what we call God is the physical universe,
Oh, God.
and yet he believes in the supernatural, and atheism is too close-minded. So,
God
Neil,
is
welcome to the show.
physical
How can we help?
universe. Mm.
Hey there, how you doing, Matt?
I'm having a good day. How are
Is
you?
he going to mention Spinoza?
I've been having a good day as well. I've
Till now.
been watching
Till
your
now.
show since I was about 16 years old. I was raised as a fundamentalist Christian. I was raised as a non-denominational. I was raised as someone who would be considered like a charismatic or speaking in tongues. But,
Yandala.
as I got older, I came to realize that it's like morally repugnant in a lot of ways to try and reconcile my inner morality with a God that would allow people to be separated from himself.
Okay,
by one way
weird.
or
What
another.
does that mean?
Okay, so I was about to cheer and applaud you for taking that step, and then you ended that wonderful sentence with the worst phrasing possible, which is that you have an objection to a God that would allow people to live apart from him. Well, I have no problem with a God that allows people to live apart from him. And the problem I have is a God that, when people seek him out, does nothing. A God that allows people to live apart from him, that's just
Right.
allowing them to exercise their freedom,
Okay. Yeah, that's good. But when I say apart from him, I'm talking in the traditional Christian sense. I'm saying apart from all goodness, apart from all anything redeemable and good in the traditional Christian sense. So
But
I
that's
find
not a real
the
thing.
idea of the Christian God to
Right.
be
What is
to be morally repugnant.
Neil? This is Mandisa. Can you expound? Can you explain what the
Yes.
Christian sense
Are
is?
you Mandisa? Are you the gospel singer, Mandisa?
Hell no. She is the Christian singer. I am the atheist. I'm waiting for that, by the way. I'm waiting for someone to connect
I
us.
just wanted
But
to
no, that is
In
not
my
me.
soul.
I am a
You were the
singer,
gospel
though.
singer,
I do
Mandisa.
sing.
We should
Yeah,
do a
I
hymn
do sing,
someday.
but I'm not that singer.
We'll rewrite a
Okay.
hymn and make
Okay,
it
I
filthy
just
and
wanted
funny.
to ask.
Anyway, please continue, because Mandisa was had a question for you about what you were saying, and I have 20.
Yes, the Christian God, what I was raised to believe in, supposedly he knows what's going to happen, but he's already decided who goes to heaven and hell. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I rejected it. But I've had many experiences, and I've also had experiences with my family members and experiences living out of state and different things where I saw things that were supernatural. So I don't know how to reconcile that. And
How do you know?
The only way I can, how do I know it's supernatural? Because I can't explain it to you in a natural term.
So whoa. Are there things, Neil? Are there things that you are unable to explain that aren't supernatural?
I don't know.
You don't know.
That's a good question.
Can you explain quantum mechanics to me?
I can.
No.
Does that mean it's supernatural?
Possibly.
Oh,
No, you don't get to say possibly.
No.
I asked, does that mean it is necessarily supernatural just because you can't explain it? And the truth is, there's only one truthful answer to that, and that is no. The criteria by which we judge whether or not something is supernatural is not, can Neil in Idaho fucking explain it?
Okay.
Are we all in agreement there?
I'm listening.
Well, I'm wondering if you're agreeing.
Okay, I understand. How do you... Yeah.
So now you've had some experience.
reconciling-
You've had some experience that you think
Yeah.
is supernatural. I would love to hear what that experience is briefly,
Yes.
and why you concluded that it's supernatural.
Okay, so when I was living in California, I was under extreme emotional duress in a
Okay.
time of my life,
Wait, you can stop there.
and I saw a vision of a man walking around in my head who was an ancient man. I don't know who he was, but I saw him.
In his head.
You saw him in your
Yeah,
head,
like I'm
so
dead
you didn't
serious.
see him with your eyes.
Yes,
right?
I had a vision. No, I had a vision, and I closed my eyes. I wasn't on drugs or anything. I had a vision
He was
And I
under
saw a
mental
man
duress.
in my head.
How can you
A Middle Eastern man? I don't know who.
how Neil? I'm trying to understand
Okay,
this.
what?
How can you see someone inside your head with your eyes?
I saw him in my mind's eye.
In your mind's eye.
God
So you
almighty.
didn't have a vision.
This
You
guy's
didn't
got
see
a bit
anything
of
with your
bullshit,
eyes.
surely.
You thought something in your brain, right?
In my consciousness, yes. In my consciousness,
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
You
And you
do-
did say that you were under extreme duress and you were going through a very bad time in your life, correct?
mental duress.
Yes. And that's what makes it hard for me to know the line between natural and supernatural, is that all these things, these God things keep happening to people when they're in these emotional times, like that's what makes it hard for me
Neil,
to understand truth from falsehood.
Neil, if someone was under extreme emotional distress and they just imagined that they envisioned someone in their brain, how would you tell the difference between that and what happened to you?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, and I'm sorry.
Right. It doesn't get to be invalid because it's
looking
you
for knowledge.
saying it.
If you just admitted that you have no way to tell the difference between your supernatural claim and someone else's claim that's not supernatural, then you are admitting that you don't have a justification for claiming that you had a supernatural experience.
It was supernatural. I felt it.
I don't care. I don't care. You just
Real.
demonstrated, Neil, you just demonstrated that you do not have a good reason. Telling me how strongly convinced you are accomplishes nothing. I believe you were strongly convinced. I believe you are wrong. You have not demonstrated any way to demonstrate that you are right. You have acknowledged that your own statements show that you are not being reasonable in your conclusion about this. So telling me how confident you are that it's supernatural does nothing, because you haven't demonstrated any way to tell that it is supernatural, which means you are not being rational.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Let me. Okay.
This
So
is bullshit.
there was something about there being dimensions outside of our knowledge that
Prove it.
makes it possible
Prove it.
for the existence of the supernatural.
No, sir. Stop. Please stop. You're embarrassing yourself. I don't want to get riled up. I want to make this really simple. You just said there's something that suggests maybe the supernatural is possible. Well, that's completely irrelevant to your case because the supernatural could be completely possible. The supernatural could be possible and demonstrable, but what you experience
absolutely
is not
delusional.
demonstrably
Or he's a bullshitter.
supernatural. It is indistinguishable from imagination.
And I haven't quite worked out which one he is.
And also, while
It
I'm here
might
on
be-
Atheist
Hey, no,
Experience,
stop,
I'm
Neil,
saying-
Neil,
Not
Neil,
well.
Neil, stop, please. I just said something,
What?
several things that specifically address your point.
What you said.
Shut up and let me finish, Neil.
The temperature is
I just
rising.
said several things that specifically address. I'm going to mute your ass until I'm done
I
because
can't.
you're not taking this seriously, and so now you'll be able to hear it. I just said several things that were very important about epistemology, about how do we know what we know, about how you could or couldn't tell whether or not something was supernatural. All of these things, and instead of acknowledging any point, you're just like, well, anyway, while I'm here on the Atheist Experience, let me say something else. No, you don't get to say anything else other than acknowledging the points, and then maybe we can move on. That's how a conversation works. When you present your case and it's rebutted, you need to acknowledge that and address it, or we don't get to move on. I cannot believe you're trying to talk over me,
I
even
thought
though I
you
fucking
muted.
muted you. Goodbye, Neil. I no longer care what you have to say because you just wanted to talk right over me, even after I put you on mute. Does that sound fair?
I acknowledge what you say. I acknowledge what you say.
Okay.
I
Did you?
acknowledge- You said
Did you?
no way to determine.
Well, go on then, say something.
I can't hear you. I can't hear anything.
We're not saying anything. I'm waiting for you to say something to either end the conversation or make a point that we can continue with.
I would
That's how
like-
conversations go.
I would like you to. Okay, so you are correct. There is no way to distinguish between what happened to me being real or not. That's what you're saying, correct?
No, I'm saying that you haven't demonstrated it. There may, in fact, be a way to tell whether or not what you experienced was real. It's just that you haven't done that because you didn't bother to care about whether or not it's true. You just went with your gut.
Okay, what I'm saying is okay.
He doesn't know
How
what
do
he's
you
saying.
explain supernatural things happening only in a strictly physical universe?
He doesn't. The supernatural things
I
don't
have no
happen.
evidence that anything supernatural has ever happened.
Supernatural.
Neil, I have no evidence that anything supernatural has ever happened. Why are you asking me to offer an explanation for something which you haven't demonstrated that you might as well ask me, Matt, can you and Mandisa explain to me why giraffes can fly on Thursday nights, but only in the vicinity of Mount Rushmore? You haven't demonstrated that fanciful construct is real. So how dare you suggest that we need to offer up an explanation for it?
He is being harsh on him, but he's being harsh on him
I'm
because
just
he's
asking
stupid.
Why do you think
Or
the
he's
supernatural
deluded,
exists in
or
the human
he's
mind?
just like, ill.
Because people
He's
are wrong.
not
People are pattern
good at
detection
health.
machines, and sometimes things go awry, where you see things and you connect the dots in a way that seems reasonable but isn't actually true. We are flawed thinkers. What better explanation could there be for why you think you experienced something supernatural and yet acknowledge there's no way anyone could demonstrate the supernatural?
Right. And like you said, Neil, and like you alluded and admitted that people can see, they think they can see things when they are under emotional distress, under emotional duress. And this is what tends to happen, especially amongst the emotional state of believers. Did you not say that? You admitted that.
Yes. Yes.
And this is what happens.
I just want to say I'm not attacking the atheist position by saying I just believe that
We
it's
know that.
I wish you would attack the atheist position. You're not attacking anything. You're just coming in and saying that you had a supernatural experience that you can't prove, which becomes useless pablum.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Okay,
that's probably
but-
true, Esky.
the physical universe. I believe is
Mandisa's
more
comment
of
there
a
was
likely
nice, though.
explanation for God.
Yeah,
than
we know
anything
that.
else.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I believe that what we call God is the physical
Well, the argument
universe,
is that
basically.
skeptics
And that
need
it still exists.
to,
Like, the universe
have a
created us. The way
decent
to
argument,
reconcile
have
science
some
and God is this.
measure of strength behind it, so they can try
universe
to
created us.
justify it in a
That's my
rational
opinion.
way. And the important thing there is rational.
Okay, if you're going to offer that opinion, what are you going? How
Oh,
are
it's
you
frozen.
backing that up? What's your basis for that?
There are so many people's testimonies out there and so many people out there. Like, you want to talk
Oh,
about
God,
the physical
okay.
evidence and say that there's no way to this and that, and that's fine. But there's so many. What about all the testimonies of people who have had experiences of different things that they can't
If one
fully
person
explain?
believes
They can't
something
put
and
it
it's
into
wrong,
words. Like, you're trying,
and then
like, as the
50
atheist,
million
you're trying
people
to
believe the same
put
thing,
into words
it
everything
just
that
means
cannot be
that
put
50
into
You're
words.
talking
million
about two
people
different
and
things
one
now.
are wrong.
At first, you're talking about how
More
the
people
existence of the
believing
universe
something
is
that's
evidence
wrong
of God,
doesn't
and then
make
when
it
we
any more
ask
right.
you for
And
evidence
that's
of
the
that,
flaw
what
there.
is your basis for that? You're talking about people's testimonies, which those are two different things here.
Saying how
Neil,
Aliens are good.
what I'm saying is that how
People believe
Yes,
they've been
go ahead.
abducted by aliens. Kind of like right now, you can go and
what you
interview
did,
them,
what you
and
did,
they're
when you called in was
absolutely
present
sure
your
that they were
testimony,
abducted
and
by
we
aliens, but
offered
no one believes
a
it.
debunking of that testimony to show that you did not have good grounds, and so your testimony should not be valuable to you, let alone other people. Correct?
I mean,
Come on, Neil,
I
you know
wouldn't
the
word it
answer.
that way, but yeah.
I know you wouldn't, because you're advocating to keep your delusions. But in all honesty, if you have a testimony that you cannot demonstrate is true, is it of any use?
My wife doesn't like Matt because she thinks he's too aggressive.
I would say that it's of use to only to the person.
It's not of use to the person. That's called
Only if
self-deception.
right.
If you are only worried
It
about
isn't even
what
of
makes
use
sense
to
to you,
God is.
if you're only worried about what makes sense to you, you are engaged in self-deception. You don't care about truth or the evidence. And so if somebody came up to you and presented their testimony and said, I can't prove this at all, but here's what I think I experienced, does that tell you at all what the truth is?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. We were talking about this earlier today. What truth is. So not to make a big old discussion about anything, but truth, starts with like the physical universe, I would say, and some things are true about the physical universe. If you crash a car into something, then any objective person can see that it's wrecked, right? Or that something bad happened, or that two physical things crashed into each other, right? So
I don't think you're in a position, Neil, to be giving a lecture on epistemology. Why don't you just answer the question? If someone offered you their testimony and they said, here's what I experienced, I can't prove that it happened, and I can't prove that my understanding of it is accurate, does that provide us any useful information about reality?
I would say yes, because
what useful information does it provide?
Yeah, I don't know whether that's true or not.
What useful
I don't know
information
whether
does it
telling
provide?
them that they're ignorant will make them hold on to them or not. I don't think it's a
provides
good
that
idea
person's-
normally to believe something that's
what
that's
useful
wrong
information does it provide?
just because it
provides
makes you feel
What does it
good.
tell us about reality
Because
that we
most
don't
of
already
the
know?
things that you hold as true, there will be good and bad aspects to it.
It
It
just
will have a
tells us that
good and a
person's
bad impact
perspective
on
of
your
it.
life in
Yes,
some
and
way.
why should can
Most
that person be wrong?
It's a balance between the plus and the minus.
And if we
And I
don't
think
have any
that
way
if
of
you
telling
believe
whether or not that
something
person is wrong, should
that
we
is
just take their word
wrong,
for it? Or should we wait
then-
until we have a way of
I mean, I
finding
can
out if
think
they're
of a
right or
few
wrong?
reasons for believing things that are
And
wrong.
that's the thing.
Because they
That
help
was a
you.
question,
They
Neil.
help you get
That was a
through
question, Neil.
a situation. If
Okay,
somebody's
that was a
horrible to you, and you have to try and think of a reason why, and you don't want to
honestly,
think
if
that
there
hang on
was
a
a
minute.
God that existed, if the universe proved that it
If you have someone who's not very nice to you, whether it's like at work or in your personal life or whatever, and you have to try and rationalize that in your head, why are they being not nice to me? And they might say something really horrible to you or about you to you, and mentally it's difficult to deal with that because you don't want to think that you're unpleasant or you're unkind or there's some major flaw in your personality. Okay, so how do you rationalize this in your head? Well, one way of doing it is to imagine that person is doing it for a reason. And it might be a negative reason, like they're treating you like that. If it's in the workplace, say they're treating you like that because because they're jealous of you. They think that you might be better than them, and you're going to kind of steal their job or get a bigger raise or whatever. So they want to kind of put you down to keep you in your place, or they're worried that you'll take their job, that kind of thing. Now that may not be true. That might be complete rubbish, but you can believe that in your head, kind of, because it helps you cope. It helps you to put it into perspective that you're not really, a dick. That person has got some flawed thinking about them that makes them treat you that way or believe that about you. And okay, so you can deliberately choose to believe something that's not correct about that other person, and you might even know that that's not correct, or you might not be sure. It might be okay, like I said, they're jealous of you because they see you as maybe being better than them, and they're worried about that. They're worried about the impact that will have on them. Now that may not be true, but it allows you to move forward. It allows you to realise, a way of moving forward that keeps you sane, that makes you think, I'm not really a bad person, and this other person's just got a problem. So that's an example, I think, in my head of how you can deliberately choose to sort of believe something or make something up that isn't true because it helps you get through it. And as long as it's not destructive, what you're thinking, I think that's kind of okay. But I'm not happy with the concept that you would believe in a God because that brings you comfort. I'm not personally comfortable with that. And the reason that I'm not comfortable with that is purely because you don't need a God to generate comfort. I don't need a God to tell me that I like you. I don't need a God to tell me that I have morals that mean that I will behave to you, kind of like a good person. I don't need a God to do that. I can do that all on my own. So I don't really like the concept of belief in a God because it brings comfort, because I think we can find that ourselves with people.
If you want to cut to the chase, Leroy, we can do that really easily. And here's the thing. I'm an atheist because I have not been convinced there's a God. You claim to have been an atheist. What convinced you there's a God?
An actual experience with God.
You had an actual experience with God.
So
tell me what
Leroy,
the experience
go
is,
for it, Leroy.
and how do you know it was an experience with God?
Well, there's more than one. There's more than one. There's more than one person.
Well, then pick one.
Pick your best.
How hard is it to pick one?
Pick what?
Oh,
If you've had multiple experiences with God, pick one. Just
Your
tell us what the fucking
experience,
experience is.
yes.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean multiple experiences?
he's a bullshitter.
Then tell us
You
what
said
that
there were
experience
multiple,
was.
though.
You
Yeah,
said-
tell us what it is.
You just
Yeah, true.
okay, Leroy. Let's stop.
Yeah.
I'm a physicist,
listen.
Chesky.
Frustrated, bro.
Listen.
We have a real problem with the
Listen,
word real and
Leroy,
truth.
listen. You claimed you had an experience with God, and this changed your mind.
Come on, Leroy.
I would like for you to briefly relay what this experience was and how you know it was God. That's it.
Yeah. So since I was an atheist at the time, it was really crazy to me what was happening. So I didn't realize what was going on at first.
Okay, get on with it.
Because what I thought was what first happened. I first wanted to get some things off my chest. I was going through what
No,
you
sir.
talked about earlier, like an emotional time.
Leroy?
I was going through an emotional time. Am I right? Huh?
Leroy, I've just muted you so that we can be clear. I don't have time for you to tell us a story. I want you to tell us, because you were an
I'm a
atheist and now you're a believer.
sciences
And
girl.
I asked
like
what
that.
changed your mind, and you said it was an
An
experience with
SSG.
God. And now you're starting off
You're an
by saying
SSG.
you weren't an atheist when you had
And
this
I
experience
love you
with God,
for it.
which means you've already
SSG.
been completely dishonest. I asked what changed your mind from getting you from an atheist to a theist. And if this experience with God did not happen while you were an atheist, then that doesn't qualify as what changed your mind. I want to know what changed your mind. Please tell us.
What are you talking?
So what do you mean? That's the only thing that could really. Since I was so convinced God wasn't real.
Oh God, he still hasn't said anything.
That's just my perspective. I'm just letting you know. I'm just coming at you. I was convinced God wasn't.
Oh,
Leroy.
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Go ahead, Mandy.
Wait a minute. No, I mean, I just asked you to get to the what was that experience? What was the defining experience for you that you just said that convinced you that God existed? You haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, I wasn't convinced God was real until I actually had that conversation. I had a conversation with God Himself.
And what did that? Please elaborate on that. What did that entail?
Imagine the Matt and the people around you were possessed by God Himself. Literally, God possessed. Imagine that literally happening. That's what happened to me.
How do you know that?
Well, I believe in God now. I mean,
Yeah,
Okay, this is a waste of time,
sentence.
Leroy.
Oh
You were
my
never an
gosh,
atheist.
yeah.
You were never an atheist
boy.
like me or Mandisa. You may have been a non-believer, but you were never a skeptic.
I'd
You
need
were
to
never a
define what
reasoned
the word
believer,
of
and
fact
you didn't give it up for reasoning. So we're going to
is.
move on to somebody else. Let's see. We have Kevin in Oregon.
Not to be one what.
You're on with Mandisa and Matt. How are you?
Yeah, Leroy was.
Hey,
I think was
If
a
I
bullshit.
completely submerge you underneath water for 10 full minutes,
Oh God.
will you be dead or alive?
It depends. What's the temperature of the water? What's the state of my body? And do you mean dead as in dead permanently, or do you mean I would remain dead unless I were revived? Because things happen differently in cold water. Why?
Now, hold on a second.
Hang on, my
What are
boy.
you saying?
Wait a
I'm talking
second.
getting all in
You asked. Hang on, Kevin. I'm going to make this really easy for you.
water. It's regular lukewarm.
Kevin, stop and listen.
Lukewarm.
Kevin,
Kevin's
are you going to
bullshit
stop
that
and listen,
again.
or am I going to drop you like a hot rock?
I'm listening.
Okay. You asked me.
I'm listening.
If you submerged me for 10 minutes underwater, would I be dead or alive? That was your question. I pointed out some of the problems with your question being incomplete. There are more problems with your question, like, do I have any alternate means of getting oxygen under here? So you have to describe the scenario more thoroughly. However,
So in
in
the
some
detail.
situation where we would have normally
which is
expected
apparently where the
someone
devil
to be
is.
dead and they turn out to be alive, that is not a demonstration that something supernatural occurred. It means that we don't yet have an explanation for how that happened. Now, you don't get to just say, hey, here's something weird that we don't have an explanation for, therefore God did it. You have to actually demonstrate that. So what's the point of this call?
No one said anything about nothing. You're talking a lot. And
Anything
Oh,
about
this
nothing,
guy's-
I'm talking a
I
lot.
think
You
this
asked me a
guy's a-
question. I
You
answered.
weren't
bullshit
saying
fan.
anything at all, honestly.
you a question. If I submerge you underwater for 10 minutes, you think you're going to come up out of that alive?
Yes, I will.
Underwater?
I will give you $1,000 and you can come over and you can submerge me for 10 minutes in the hot tub behind my house and I will come up alive. Want to bet me? I'll put $1,000 on it between the two of us and an extra $1,000 donated directly to Black non-believers. You gonna put your money where your mouth is?
Okay. How many minutes then? How many
10.
minutes? You tell me. How many
I
minutes?
don't know.
Kill you?
If I have,
As long
if I
as
have
the
an
oxygen
oxygen tank
lasts.
that'll last for 30 minutes, then you can go for 25.
I don't know. See, you're making.
No, see, smarty pants. You didn't think everything through, and you came up with a sloppy scenario.
Anything about that?
Very
No,
good.
you're full of shit. You're making shit up.
You're full of shit, my man.
I'm
Goodbye,
sit-
Kevin.
I'm sitting up here amused
Goodbye,
at the fact that
Kevin.
he's almost threatening to commit murder on the air.
Past the first question.
I get goodbye, Kevin. You're not worth talking to.
Yeah, dump him, please.
Hey, I think I've come up with a got you. Let's imagine for a second that I didn't have an oxygen tank and I didn't have any way of breathing, and I let Kevin hold me underwater, my head underwater for 10 minutes, and I died. Okay?
So what does that mean?
What difference does it make?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what if they revived me afterwards? What difference does it make? You don't get to claim a miracle, and you don't get to claim it was God. Kevin is a sloppy thinker that we demonstrated over and over again, because even after telling him some of the problems with his scenario, he says
There's a huge problem with his question at one. I mean, like I said, it's like he was that sounded almost like a threat.
This is somebody
Really?
who watched a documentary about people who came back from really weird scenarios or who drowned and came back, and he wants to give all the credit to God. Well, fuck right on off with that. Your God doesn't get credit for things that we know to be naturally occurring and are the result of things that are true about the physical world. All right. No, I'm not taking that. So, Paul in Michigan, thanks for waiting. You are on with Matt and Mandisa. You have questions about truth and moral absolutes?
Yeah, I've called before and talked to you before, and so I was just curious from your perspective why truth matters.
Oh God, why
From an
truth
atheist
matters?
perspective, why truth matters, and
I answered literally this question 2 weeks. I answered literally this question 2 weeks ago when I was on. Truth matters because if you're going to cross the street, it matters whether or not a bus is coming at you. The truth matters.
okay, no, well, I'm talking about in the long run. If we're only so much compost, why does the truth matter?
No. You don't get to go because because life eventually ends, it was worthless. You don't get to pull that bullshit. Life is its own reward. The fact that let me finish, or I will hang up on your ass.
No.
Let me finish, or I will hang up on your ass. Understood?
What was that?
Let me finish.
He said he's going to hang
or
up
I
on
will
you
hang
if
up
you
on
don't
you.
let him finish.
Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah.
Life is its own reward. The fact that it ends doesn't mean it was worthless. The fact that eventually my truck sitting out in my driveway will rot away in some truck graveyard and then eventually become nothing doesn't mean that it doesn't have value now. And the truth about its value now is about how effective it is at what it's doing right now. The fact that I'm going to poop out the sandwich I ate doesn't mean the sandwich was of no value. The fact that I'm eventually going to have to eat again tomorrow doesn't mean the meals that I had today were of no value. It is a cheat to say, well, in the end, nothing's going to matter, which means it doesn't matter now. That is simply not true. By the way, theists, Christians, are the ones who think this life doesn't matter. This life is like dirty rags. This is the place where you wipe your feet before you go on to the real life. So it is the atheist model. This is the one and only life that we know is going to matter. And the fact that it ends adds to its value. It doesn't diminish from it. Now you can continue.
And that's got to be good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just the life
that's my
that matters.
question. Why? I understand, and that's not my view that this life doesn't matter. This actually, that's not all Christian stance. That this
That's
life.
what the Bible says.
I agree.
Paul, if I may ask you a question.
But
If you were, let's put this in the real world scenario. If you were accused of a crime that you didn't commit, and there was no evidence, or there was evidence to be gathered, would you not want the truth to matter in that circumstance?
yeah.
You would want the truth to matter. So you wouldn't want it to just be this arbitrary thing where your innocence or guilt could be decided, especially if you were wrongfully accused. You would want that truth to matter.
Yeah, I would. But I'm seeing this from a theistic world perspective.
No, sir.
I'm asking from an atheist.
No.
Sir.
Nope.
You're seeing it from a human perspective. You give a shit about your life, so do we. That's why the truth matters, period. This is a pointless question, and we don't need to continue on it. And
that to me, that's right. And that is what can be infuriating about such a lazy way of thinking, because when you try to apply that to so many real world issues, which have affected so many people, This is what gets under our skin when you try to propose blanketed stuff like that.
Yep. It is also disgusting to me personally.
Yes, absolutely.
That everybody should care about the truth, and the people who are least likely to care about the truth are the ones that call in and ask a question like that. Was why should the truth matter to an atheist? Because it's all we've got. We don't have a fiction that can override the truth and make us feel comfortable. We have to deal with reality on reality's terms. We don't get to have some imaginary friend that we can pretend is going to, got our back. We have to make real friends that
That's
actually
right.
have our back. That's the truth of reality. And what you're not recognizing is that your shitty religion, your immoral religion, your irrational religion, the only reason you're a part of it is because it is providing you a network of like-minded friends to do that heavy lifting for you. So join in and participate and stop making the rest of us do all the fucking work. All right. Here's a good question. Austin in Texas, if I can click on it. There we go. Austin in Texas, you are on with Mandisa and Matt. Welcome. Thanks for waiting.
Hey, Mandisa. Hello, Matt.
Hey.
Hello.
You had a question for us. Bring it on.
My question, yes, sir. My question would be to you two, have either of y'all ever had a religious experience?
Oh, Christ.
Yes.
Could you describe it?
That's kind of.
Well, I was going to let Mandisa chime in too.
Well, I'll tell you what. There was a I remember, oh my gosh, a few years, not even a few years ago. One of my former friends and I were coming back from partying, and we were both like hella drunk. And actually, there was a checkpoint where there were cops. They were checking for sobriety and such. And do you know that my friend was concerned that we were about to go to jail. The Labor Day weekend, it would have been might have been harder for us to get out. But as I was getting out my license, someone decided they wanted to jump the checkpoint. And so the cops had to go chasing after them. And so they just waved us on. So by the skin of our teeth, we avoided having to do a sobriety test and such. Now, someone could say, "Oh, that was
Texas,
God. Look at God. They saved you." But it was a very lucky coincidence. It just so happened that there was someone who did not want to go to jail at night and they decided to take off. And so the cops had to had to stop what they were doing and go after them. We got damn lucky. Now, someone else, before I re-identified as an atheist, I would have said that was God looking out for me. God bless me. I am blessed and highly favored. That's a huge statement that I can't stand. Especially a lot of Black Christians say that. But certainly someone could, take that as a religious experience and to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to get my life right. I'm not going to drink again. I'm not going to do this, blah, blah, blah." But it was just a very, very lucky circumstance.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to give mine now or if you want to address Mandisa, so I'll stop.
Yeah. Let me try to cut in between the two of y'all. This is kind of weird talking to two people. I can see it now.
Get on with it, Austin.
So I was going to come to Matt with my Austin religious experience that I had about 2 years ago, December 19th, 2018. But talking to you, Mandisa, that brought up my first real religious experience whenever I was riding to Atlanta from North Carolina with two of the homies, and I just we hit traffic. I was on a mixture of God knows what, and I just jumped on the center console while I was driving in the fast lane, and I just jumped on the center console. Neither one of the homies knew how to drive a stick, but somehow we all got back to Atlanta.
So what?
With our skin and our teeth, and I don't know, that was kind of an embarrassing story. That was like right around 2012. But Matt, all right, you go with your
Oh,
religious
that's
experience.
just irritating now.
Sure.
Move on.
And I've had lots of them, but my religious experiences aren't anything like what either of you described. I'm talking about being in church, being in praise and in song and feeling euphoria and elation and goosebumps and hair rising up and a tingling down the back and a sense of joy that is shared by the people around me. And because all of them believed it was the Holy Spirit, I believed it was the Holy Spirit too. And for years believed it was the Holy Spirit. Of course that's what else could it be? That I'm standing here singing praises to Jesus and I feel better than I've ever felt. Granted at that time I probably hadn't, I had experienced orgasms at some point in this process because it happened on multiple different occasions. But that was also one of the things that clued me in, is that I felt not an identical experience, but a similar quality of experience from sex, from art, from music, secular music that I'm supposed to burn, according to my extreme Southern Baptist family members, and that's when I realized what's experiencing here is there's nothing supernatural or no evidence of anything supernatural. This is my brain. Songs are written in a specific way, and listen to Dan Barker talk about this. Songs, because he used to write Christian musicals, but songs written for church are written to be grand and simple. They have incredibly simple melodies so that everybody, no matter how poor of a singer you are, you can sing along and sound good. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art. And it's simple stuff. And then when I realized
Matt,
this can
this
happen
also,
outside of church,
yeah.
it was no longer a religious experience.
But what's interesting is that when we talk about what a religious experience is, it just shows you how broad the term really is. Just like with other terms that religious people use.
And I'm glad you were here to do that.
Because there could be different, quote unquote, what people would consider religious experiences that are just like everyday life experiences that could be, that are definitely explained by scientific terminology.
Oh, for sure, like fasting, and then just chemicals and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even think about fasting.
Yeah.
You know how hangry I get when I haven't eaten? You won't need to see God if you keep me from eating. I will show you a motherfucking God if you starve me out.
No, sleep deprivation is what gets me twisted. But yeah.
Yeah, so thanks, Austin. I don't know if you wanted to continue. We got like 20 minutes left, and I would try to get some more callers. But if you had more, please continue. I just hope we answered your question.
No, I think that's it, Austin. That went absolutely nowhere.
So I guess we did answer his question.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting.
No, it wasn't.
So we got a couple more callers to get to, and this one is a question here from Carl in North Carolina. Carl, thanks for waiting. You're on with Mandy's.
Carl. Go for it.
Yes, it's this is Carl from North Carolina. It's primarily a call for than anything else.
Carl.
First of all,
he's going to tell you about his name.
Carl, I promise I'm not trying to be a dick. I promise I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm trying to save you. Be very cautious about how you phrase this question, because I already know it's a bad question, and Mandis and I have talked about it before. So I just wanted you to come in cautiously on it. So there you go. Now you're up.
Oh, that's intriguing.
What? Say that again, Carl?
Well, I'm trying to wonder why so many black people and people I admire embrace Christianity, given the history of racism and white nationalism in this country.
We have definitely talked about this before, and the same could be said. There are a lot of white evangelical Christians as well. So the very same Christian, well, there are a lot of Christians white Christians that are just as blinded as black folks. But again, yes, this has been something that we have discussed before regarding the institution of enslavement and the enforcing of Christianity, but also the church being an institution that actually provided a sense of support when the legal system and when this country of America disfranchised and oppressed blacks. So we have to take that into consideration. And the fact that there were some very anti-slavery Christians, even though we can pick apart the aspect of what they picked out from the Bible as far as being more Jesus-like. But when you look at the oppression that has been committed against the black community and the role the church has played, there must be an understanding. It doesn't mean that we agree with it. And certainly, I cannot be the one who will, I can't be the one who saves everyone from it. Because this isn't just this was not an overnight process. It wasn't just as simple as, well, Black folks were forced to accept Christianity, so therefore, once slavery ended, then they just had to get rid of it, or they should just get rid of it. You have to understand the deeper institutional factors that are a result of Christianity and white supremacy, and why many Black folks still hold on to it. It would definitely be worth researching that. It would definitely be worth taking a look at some seriously historical factors into play. And if you want to help with that, if you really want to understand that, do that research and support our organization and what we do. We don't claim to liberate everyone from religion. That's impossible. We're not God. But the best you can do is to do some research on the enslavement, the institution of slavery in this country. Also, the role that the church has played in actually implementing and creating schools, and also other community services. So there are a lot of things that we can acknowledge that the church as an institution has done, but that the doctrine itself has been damaging. So it's not just one blindly blanketed response to that. And I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it sort of does. It's the fact that so many people I admire, like here in North Carolina, there's William Barber, Cornel West, Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
Reverend Warnock, who just got elected.
Yeah, Reverend Warnock, yes.
Very smart, intelligent people that you would think that would kind of like abandon that thing and say, and start to say, I mean, we saw the events that this past week. It was terrible. And saw some guy wearing a shirt on there saying Camp Auschwitz.
Yeah, I saw that guy too.
Mm-hmm.
I want to point out, though, that this isn't a matter of intelligence, by the way. You say, well, all these smart people, I'm pretty sure I can stack my IQ up against almost anybody on the planet, especially since I don't give a fuck about IQ. But I was a believer for a very, very, very long time, and some other people were as well. And one thing about people who are smart is that I think this is a Michael Shermer quote, that we're really good at rationalizing things we came to believe for non-smart reasons. And so when you're looking at something like the Black Christian community, why does this exist when this nation did this? Well, first of all, Christianity and this nation aren't the same thing, so that was already kind of a mistake early on, tiptoeing into that. But it's the important thing to remember is that while the Bible supports slavery, Christians and many different Christians at different times both use the Bible to either support slavery or to oppose it. And you can do that. You can pick verses and say, hey, God came for all of us. You can do that. And as long as you reform your Christianity so that it is now not a pro-slavery version of Christianity, and instead is a pro-community version of Christianity, which is what the Black community benefits from, there is a ready... Where are we going tonight? We're going to church. What are we going to eat tonight? We're going to eat at church. This is the sort of thing that happens, especially in smaller, poorer communities where the church is the community center. And it would be a mistake to go, gosh, how could you still be a Christian after what it did for slavery? Well, you could still be a Christian after what it did to help eliminate slavery in some cases too. So while I'm opposed to Christianity, I don't want to oversimplify things to just be like, oh, Christianity is always in every version pro-slavery, and anybody who supports that is just,
what
stupid.
What does it mean when
That's not the way it works. It's not a matter of intelligence. It's about
that there are
being
8
convinced
playbacks.
for bad reasons
What
to
does that
build a
mean?
community.
Playbacks.
Right. Plus, Carl, all the people you mentioned are men. They're male. Christianity is still very pro-male.
Yep.
It's still and so even these intelligent Black men that you speak of will benefit from this institution that heavily favors males. It is full of male privilege and male dominance. So of course, if it gives them that prominence to a community that has been disenfranchised and disadvantaged, then of course they're going to utilize it, no matter how intelligent they are.
It's like asking somebody, why do you keep dating women if they keep breaking your heart? Maybe Matt should just go be gay for a while. I mean, that's not the way the brain works when you're evaluating things.
Playbacks, does that mean
here's my
that,
family,
what,
here's my
you
community.
can't play?
I didn't find my way out of Christianity because I got smart.
8. It says playbacks.
I found my way out of Christianity
8.
because I cared about the truth and I
There you go,
investigated.
look.
And
Playbacks.
let's be
8.
honest, there's not a lot of motivation
What
for
does that
most
mean?
people, irrespective of their racial heritage, to actually do that. We are lazy, and we have important shit to do every day that doesn't involve, let me go learn a dead language and see if I can prove that this God somebody else is talking about is real or not.
Yeah, well, I guess I can see,
okay.
you know, that point.
What,
I guess,
something to do
you know,
with that?
there's another thing, too, that I've been an atheist since I was 8. You know, grew up in a Lutheran household, and I stopped believing, you know, very early on, as George Carlin said one time, he was a Catholic up until he reached about 8, when he reached the age of reason. So I guess I'm coming from a different perspective where I've been a non-believer since I was about 8 years old.
Yep. And that's why we appreciate you calling in.
Yes, and that is right, and that also speaks to a privilege that you might want to reconsider and check, because yes, you were,
The number
and
of
I was
times that
fortunate
a
enough,
browser
even though
or a
come from
device
church, I was
started
fortunate to
playing
not have
the
been
stream.
raised fully as a believer. So I was, even from my childhood, I
Or
was
the number of
never,
users who
fully
subscribe to your
immersed
channel
in
during the
religion, but
stream.
I have known far more
That's a bit
in
weird.
my community who have been. And again, you have to look at the institutional structures as to why that is the case. And having a better understanding from that point, instead of just looking at, well, why are those people still believers, even though it makes sense to me, because it makes sense to both. It makes sense to me, you, and Matt that Christianity is very immoral. It is a very damaging religion and has been damaging to the Black community. But again, those institution structures, which also plays huge factors in economic disparities, health disparities, all of that. You have to understand why it can be a bit more challenging for folks in the Black community to let it go. And also, even
Let
for
it
more of
go.
us as Black atheists to speak on it and actually be heard.
Carl, I appreciate the time and the question. Hopefully that addressed your issues. I got to move on because we're almost out of time.
I gotta move on,
And
boy.
love the theist callers, because it gives me a big chuckle every week to listen to the theist callers. So it's
Go for
kind of
it.
like
Go for
entertaining
it.
for me. And I thank you for what you're doing, Matt and Mandisa. And I'll hang up now.
Thank you so much, Carl.
Thank
Have you
you.
seen this?
Bye-bye.
Have you
I
seen this?
appreciate your patience waiting. I know
There
you
we
were
go.
on
Have you
hold for
seen
like over an hour.
Let's Meet Deity?
We've got about 8 minutes left to
She's
go, so hopefully
absolutely
we
lovely.
can do this a little justice and get to
She
one more call
is
after it. We'll see.
a
Derek in
hell-
Nevada
that's a-
is on
she
with
is
an
a
argument
hell of a
from
girl.
reason.
She's
I don't-
lovely. She's a princess.
Uh-oh.
How you doing, Derek?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, that's
I'm
not a good
reading
sound.
the
Yeah,
note
I'm
here
fine.
from
How are you?
the call screener. It says argument from reason, intentionality is built into the fabric of the universe, which must be grounded in God's existence. Cool. How do we? I'm confused.
that's
How do we
true,
go
there are
about
many.
demonstrating intentionality in the fabric of the universe?
Oh, physicsy one.
Well, I think that's probably the easiest thing to demonstrate. I think it's just
Great.
really tantamount to saying, that naturalism is false, right? And so if you think that naturalism is false, then that means there are norms built into the world, and that just means that there exist values in the world. And so I think it's...
Sentence doesn't
I'm
mean
sorry,
anything.
I don't want to be a dick, but literally nothing you said answered or addressed my question about how do you demonstrate intentionality in the universe. You certainly don't begin by assuming naturalism is false. How do you demonstrate intentionality?
Well, I take the counterposition to be contradictory. Like, intentionality is just...
So Derek, this is...
Explain the contradiction.
Derek.
I just want to explain the contradiction.
Derek.
And then I'll let you...
No, I tell you what, you won't decide what you will or won't let me do. Okay? Let's start there. I've asked you a couple times now about intentionality in the universe and how one would demonstrate it. And you've started by saying that you just assume that naturalism is false, and then you follow that up with you think that the contradictory position to intentionality in the universe is
the cat.
False on its face. Well,
I'm going to
that's
do
your
a video
opinion.
about dogs versus cats.
Demonstrate.
Let's talk
Tell me
after
how we
that
can
video.
demonstrate
I've got
intentionality
some
in the universe.
amazing
Why should I
images
ask
of cats and
the
dogs.
question that's foundational to your whole point, and you can't get to it?
No, I did get to it. You just didn't listen.
No,
But I'll
you did.
explain again. Okay, so
No, sir.
the
No, sir. I asked you how to demonstrate intentionality in the universe, and your first response was to reject naturalism, correct?
I said that I think it's tantamount to rejecting naturalism.
Correct. That's what you said, right? And then when I objected to that, you went on to suggest that the opposite would be unthinkable, which is yet another opinion. So don't tell me that you have explained this and that I somehow missed it, because that's a lie. Explain how to demonstrate intentionality in the universe.
Right. So the counterposition is self-refuting. It's self-refuting because if you believe that there are no beliefs, which all I take intentionality to be is that there exist beliefs. That if you believe that there are no beliefs, then you just have a contradictory position, because that presumes that you have a belief.
Derek?
And if you believe there are no beliefs,
No, Derek, I'm saying, I'm not talking about denying beliefs. I have beliefs. My beliefs are not a demonstration of the intentionality in the universe. My intentionality isn't a universe intentionality. How do you demonstrate intentionality in the fabric of the universe? Not just Matt can have a belief and can have an intentionality. How do you demonstrate intentionality in the design and in the facts of the universe?
well, it's just that your beliefs are directed, right?
He just
I mean,
My
understand.
beliefs are not directed by an agent in the universe other than me. You were talking about
The fabric.
you were talking about intentionality in the fabric of the universe, and when I ask you how you demonstrate that, you talk about it's evidently self-evident unless you want to deny that beliefs exist. Well, I don't deny that beliefs exist, and it's still not self-evident that there is intentionality, design in the fabric of the universe. So how do you demonstrate that?
I was trying to explain. I don't know why you wouldn't let me clarify. When I say it's built into the fabric of the universe, I'm saying that there are normative facts, right, as opposed to non-normative facts. That's when I say it's built into the fabric of the universe. I'm saying there are normative facts. That's what it means. The universe is such a way such that there are normative facts. Are you still there? Am I still connected?
Yeah, I'm bored silly because there are facts about the universe. I agree. There are beliefs in the universe. I agree. But you're saying that because intentionality, you claim that intentionality is built into the fabric of the universe, and that this must in fact be grounded in God's existence. You haven't demonstrated that there is intentionality in the structure, in the facts, in the fabric of the universe. You've demonstrated that the universe contains intentionality from individual agents, but show that the universe has intentionality that necessarily points to God's existence. How do you demonstrate that?
Well, this is what I was saying. I'm not even sure that we disagree. It sounds like you think we disagree where we don't, right? Because the one thing
We absolutely disagree. You're calling to argue for God's existence.
Bark Twain.
why aren't you letting me finish? Well, we might
I tell you what, I'm going to hang up on you because I have asked you repeatedly to demonstrate something, and you keep saying you did, or you keep saying you're going to. Get to it, and get to it, get to it, get to it now.
He won't.
Every single time I attempt, you cut me off. You start interrupting. I try to.
All right, jackass, keep bitching. Bitch somewhere else. Goodbye.
Excellent.
I didn't cut you off. I asked you a question, and you didn't answer it. And then I asked you again, and you didn't answer it. But you claimed that you did answer it. And I don't play that game. So,
Simple as that.
sorry for that waste of time there, Mandy. So here we have one that might not be a waste of time.
So
We have
she's
Robert in the UK
attacking
to
my
close out
arm.
the show. Robert, thanks for waiting. You've been on for like an hour and a
Attacking my
half,
arm.
and I set you aside because I thought we were going to have a theist demonstrate the existence of God, but nope, it's just about normative nonsense. So welcome, Robert.
Look at that arm.
Are you there?
Look at that. It looks like I'm self-harming. I had
Well,
to. Hang on.
Lost Robert?
I'm just going to mute this for a second.
So he might have fallen asleep in the hour and a half.
I don't know whether I told you earlier. I had to go this morning to have a flu vaccine jab in my arm. I took my top off and gave them my arm, and they saw that lot. So the lights on it, so you can't quite see it all beautifully against my beautiful arm. All those marks, and the nurse looked at me and wanted me to explain why I got all those marks on my arm, and I think she thought that I was self-harming. And then I explained that it was because I've got a puppy. As soon as I said that, well, it's not a problem. Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't think about the fact that it's because she's not called Bark Twain, or I kind of like Lucy Fur, because it was like Lucy and Fur. I mean, Lucy Fur. I like that one. And I could have called her Lucy. That would have been good. Let's get back to it.
To hear them make those excuses, to actually project their fears onto us, because it's their fear. And so, and it's also very interesting to hear where many of us may have once been.
Well, you wait and see what the dogs and the cats look like. I've got some amazingly cute images of cats and dogs. We'll put them next to each other. We'll compare them, and
so sometimes it's just interesting to hear them.
We'll see. Sometimes
it's sad too, because you realize that there are some people who would rather, they would rather. They would rather console themselves and try to get other people to believe as they do, even though what they believe is very harmful and damaging, and they could possibly be passing that on to others, especially their children. But at times, it's just interesting to see how other people's minds work, or rather doesn't work.
I like having the conversations because once upon a time, I was that theist who believed that. And so pointing out how and why I changed my mind and what grounding I was going to use for morality, or what I was going to use to try to figure out which religion was true or anything else, that's important. But when somebody calls in to say that, like the previous caller that we didn't get anywhere with, that an argument from pure reason is that because there are beliefs in the universe, there must be a God to ground it. That guy couldn't even put the argument together. It was, all I want to know is demonstrate the truth of what you say. Demonstrate that there is intentionality in the fabric, because what people generally mean by that is design. Now, the call that fell asleep from the UK, which is, why do we let people talk about morality? Because we let people talk about anything, first of all. But getting their input on what they think about morality compared to ours is how we demonstrate that we have a moral high ground. That neither Mandisa nor myself are going to be expecting blind devotion and followers, and neither of us are going to be demanding things, and you're going to believe this even if we don't.
Speak for yourself, Matt. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
I'm totally kidding.
I suspect,
but yeah, you are absolutely right.
I suspect that we're in agreement because we're friends, and I try not to have shitty friends who would want to have sycophants.
Exactly right. I mean, and seriously, I mean that is just a really, really bad. It is an abusive position to take, to want people to just follow you and do whatever you want, and if they don't, then you're going to do something bad. I mean, we might as well be like the mob if that's the case. And I just think that so many people don't realize how much their indoctrination has affected them, to the point where they have been conditioned to thinking this way, and they may not. And one thing I found is that a lot of people they genuinely may not know. So this is a point of curiosity for them as well.
Let's end this really thoroughly today. So first of all, if we can put up the information for Black non-believers so that people can get that back up on the screen, where we can show people how to go find Black non-believers, how to get involved, how to find their website, and how to find out how to pay your $5 and get access to the speakers at the convention next week as well. There's Mandisa Thomas, who, by the way, has her own Patreon as well. And for people who are volunteering their lives to these efforts, some of us are really bad about saying, please support me, please get me. And I know that I'm not fan of doing it, and I know Mandisa's not a fan of doing it. We're both fans of doing it, though, for organizations and events and actions that we do support and love. And so on that note, I almost want to stop, but I'm gonna ramble for a second, because right now the number is $8,617. I want to, first of all, let me thank everybody who donated every penny to that, whether we get to the 10,000 that we were matching or not. Every penny that you donated is going to be matched and donated to Black Nonbelievers, so that Mandisa and Black Nonbelievers can keep up that mission. Thank you to everyone who donated, no matter how big, how small.
Absolutely.
Especially through this trying year where people have been unemployed and sick.
Yeah, I mean, yes, 2020 has been a very, 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 very challenging and dastardly year for many. And as we're moving into a new era, we are seeing a bit of resistance, and we want everyone to continue. We want everyone to keep it up, and we really want to, and it is important that we try to do it together as much as possible. And so, yes, I will echo Matt's thanks to all of you, and to everyone who will watch even after the show is over. I know that the fundraisers continue until about midnight or so. So please continue to support as much as you can. We really, really do appreciate it.
It just jumped up to $9,200, so we're 800 shy of the goal.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure we're going to get there, even if it doesn't. I would run long to get there, but I also have another show to do at 7 today. So,
absolutely. Yes.
Thanking everybody else. Huge thank you to Mandisa. And by the way, it won't be 2 years before you're back on. Not only did I tell Greg to book you for next January, but maybe we'll try something around spring break and see what's shaking then. Because
let's do it. Let's do it. I absolutely love being on the show. I love being on the show with you, Matt. This has been amazing.
I absolutely love it. We're going to get there. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Please remember, no matter what country you're in, there's a global pandemic going on, and the health organizations are doing everything in their power to fight this. Kudos to the heroic first responders and the people who put their lives at risk every day to make sure not just that there are people running hospitals, but that I can get food, because I've been sheltering in place since last March, and I have everything pretty much delivered to me. But that means that people out there have to go out and do work, and those are the people that I'm grateful and appreciative to. I've tipped bigger and I'm this year than ever before, and I was always a good tipper to begin with. It's snowing in Austin, Texas today. I posted a couple pictures and a video. That only happens once every few years, but it did gather on the ground. It also means that my food may not be delivered because Austin doesn't have an infrastructure to deal with ice. So as soon as it starts snowing, we shut the whole city down. But there were great jokes. There were jokes made that were like, something will happen when hell freezes over, and Texas is like, here, hold my beer. And boom, I've got cold. I miss the snow sometimes. I don't miss the cold that much. I miss my family, and I know I mentioned this previously, but unfortunately, my dad and probably my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece all have COVID.
Oh gosh!
Because of a Christmas gathering. Now we knew it was likely to happen, and they were all being as careful as anybody could be. So please exercise caution, take care of yourself, follow the guidelines in your area, make sure that you are not becoming a risk factor, and we will see you all. Oh, by the way, Mandisa, $10,135. We have crossed the line.
Oh my gosh. Y'all are going to make me cry on the air.
You guys are so fucking awesome. Thank you for hooking up our friend.
Y'all really, really are. Thank you so much.
I wish I had a big banner to put up for our fans, because you guys are absolutely the best. When I sit here and say that neither man
really are
followers, we don't want sycophants. We want you guys.
No. Yes.
We want the people who are working with us to make a better world. So thank you, everybody. I apologize. I have to go. Mandisa, I love you dearly. We'll have you back on soon. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Y'all take care. Be safe. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
What will it take?